So I'm going to be talking about sustainable living for everyone. When we started the company 3.5 years ago, we looked at this picture. And this is a picture that most of you might be aware of, right? So the world is having an issue. There is a climate crisis that we are all facing, where there are different options, what we can do to actually have a positive impact on the outcome. Now, what most of you might not know is that construction / the building and operation of buildings is accounting for around 40% of global CO2 emissions. So that's huge. Well, and one of the reasons is that construction hasn't changed over the last 100 years, right? The picture on the left is actually not from 1800 something, but this is from 2 years ago on a construction site in Germany. And if you look at the picture on the left, this is what other industries do. Well, and you can see it in all productivity figures. So if you look at productivity curves and you look at construction, you will find out that construction is basically on a level line. So there is no improvement over the last 30, 40 years. Well, the German coalition actually said, well, we got a problem, right? We need to take care about sustainability topics, but we also need to make sure that there is enough affordable housing out there. Yeah, so they said, let's do timber construction, let's do 400,000 new homes a year. Well, if you look at newspapers, and this is not just a German issue, yeah, that's a global issue. For example, California is actually lacking 2.5 million affordable homes, right? You can basically look all over the place. Now, do countries, do legislations, do regions actually achieve those targets? Well, they don't, yeah? Fortunately, there is also some good news sometimes. And then let me introduce you to Gropyus. So, we're actually trying to help in solving this problem. And the way how we do that, let me talk about who we are first so that you kind of have an idea. Started late 19, a group of tech entrepreneurs. So we are a technology company delivering turnkey, sustainable and affordable housing. Started in late 19, went through a number of investment rounds, and Victoria and her team were also supporting us on that one. Closed our first closing of Series B earlier this year. And so far we have, well, a little bit above 200 million euros in investors' capital in the company, 355 builders, but I think that's been a week ago, so it's like 370 or so by now. Yeah, active in Germany, Austria, and reaching out to Switzerland, so we might see you here soon. Now, what do we do and how do we do this differently? We create sustainable living for everyone, which includes sustainability, of course, and that was my starting point, which includes affordability, which is the second notion, but which also includes the inclusive character of everyone. Yeah? We don't want to build for some sort of elite group in the population. It's something built to satisfy the masses, including minorities, which is very, very important from an accessibility, wheelchair usage perspective, and so on. Now, what I want to share with you is how we do this and why we believe the technology is actually supporting that quite a bit. So first of all, traditionally, buildings are built as prototypes, right? You start with a blank sheet of paper, your engineers do some nice designs, the architects do the nice designs, give it to the engineers, they try to make it work. Then you've got the people who pay for it. They like the design, but it's too costly. Yeah, so they need to rework the budget, they need to do redesigns, and so on and so on. There is no learning happening. Yeah, so it's always starting from scratch. And looking at buildings as products means you have some sort of evolution. Yeah, if you look at other product companies, what do? They design something that is to be reproduced, right? You're doing a prototype with the intention to actually get it into a serial production, into some industrialized approach. Give a couple examples, right? Apple is doing that, for example. That would be a classical product company. Yeah? You are starting with understanding what do your users need, and then you figure out how to get the product to the user in the best ever way. to satisfy user needs most efficiently and at the lowest possible cost point. So it's not about optimizing little bit these steps in construction. It's about figuring out how we can use technology to get multifamily, sustainable, and affordable housing out there to people. So, it's easy to do sustainable buildings if you don't need to care about costs. It's also easy to do very affordable buildings if you don't care about sustainability or whether you got a cool product. But if you want to combine all three of them, you need to act differently, which we do in capturing the whole value chain end to end. So what does this mean? We start with a kit of parts. So we have a catalog of building components. Think of it like Lego. Yeah, so you've got a box with all those little those pieces in there, where a configurator, in our case, which is an AI-driven software that, what we would say, replaces the architect, is actually putting the building together. Yeah, so we look at a piece of land, a piece of property, and say, this is what we, this is the volumetric body where the buildings can go into. And AI then takes components from this kit of parts and creates different options how buildings can be put in there. Different designs, different setups, different units mix. Yeah, so if you have 1 to 3, 4 bedroom units, different landscaping, different materials when it comes to sustainability as well. And the outcome, you have a fully fledged design of a building, yeah, or of a group of buildings with a number of options to choose from. And that is the point where you can actually already click on order and you know what you get, right? You know the costs, you know the carbon emissions, you know the timelines, you know it all. Which is because we have 100% transparency on all components. So the parametric algorithm-based AI-triggered software is using everything all the way until the last screw and nail that is in the building. Which helps, obviously, if you want to get transparency and measure and improve, because even during the design process, it's all about data. Yeah, you have full transparency, you need to have full data so that you can actually improve your product. Otherwise, you're guessing, yeah? And guessing doesn't get us anywhere, right? It's all about data and making smart use of data. What this also does, it also creates a model which is automatically feeding the robots. Why? Because the robots are manufacturing the building components. So wall and slab elements, everything that goes into the building is manufactured based on the very, very same digital model. The robots, by the way, we build ourselves as well. So we have a robotics company in the group, and we've got a manufacturing company in the group that is actually producing those components. And with, I would say, a significant share of our last financing round, this is what we're going to do. Yeah? This is the largest share, as I said, is going into a fully automated manufacturing line of building components. If you recall one of the earlier pictures that I showed you where I said other industries, namely car industries, are much more advanced, well, it's time to catch up. Yeah? And if you look at that picture and look at what we're doing here, same thing. Yeah? Fully automated robotic manufacturing of buildings. And the same thing is happening on site as well. So once the buildings, so when the components are then shipped to site, they are lifted in place. And the lifting in place is also something that we can automate. There's no reason out there why we should think of construction sites as manual, right? Why not apply the same industrial processes, the same technology on a site, just like you would do in manufacturing? Again, to learn there, to enrich the digital twin, to do all those things digitally to produce the best product that you can. That's the pilot building that we did. It's a 9-story building in Germany that was built in 6 weeks, with the exception of the concrete core. That took longer. This is just how, traditional construction has been done. And yeah. But that's not it. So once the building is built, the building also has a digital part, which is based on the same digital twin, which we call building operating system, which is the platform that that connects the users, which is the tenants, to the building, as well as the building to the asset holders, the people who own the building. So the ESG reporting on the asset holder side, the facility management, everything is done over the same platform. And on the tenant side, you can order your cleaning services. Yeah? You can interact, obviously, in smart home features with the building. You can get your internet connection, insurance, whatever you want. It's all the same platform. Which is important because people just don't need just a shell. They need more, right? They have more needs in living. Just like other companies do it as well, right? If you look at cars, if you look at what Amazon does, if you look at what Tesla does, it's simply, even if we sell the iPhone, and I'm talking from an Apple or Gropyus perspective, right? We still keep running the App Store and the operating system on the phone, right? So we keep learning about what users want, what they need, and how we can improve the product. With the nice side effect that we are not just monetizing on the installation or construction of the building, but also during the building operating phase. So it's the end-to-end technology that is helping us there, because only if you connect those platforms end-to-end from initial design to building operation, you're actually creating the efficiencies and synergies that you need to get costs down and sustainability up. Now, in sustainability, one more word to that, because I think that's really important. Sometimes people in construction say, let's just replace the concrete with a little bit of timber and we're all happy and we're all good, right? It's not that easy. Sustainability is a little bit more than just that. It's about people's health, it's about people's well-being, it's about accessibility, it's about the microclimate effect that buildings also have on an urban environment. Emissions, for example, of materials that you're using, climate, temperatures in the room, moisture content, and so on. So we have developed our own metrics, so it's 10 KPIs around those 4 aspects that we measure ourselves against, making sure that we're improving every product iteration, getting better than the previous one. With the ambition to actually connect those aspects of sustainability, affordability, and the cool product with ands instead of ors. Yeah, and that's how the building looked like when it was done. So it's a 9-story building with photovoltaic panels on the exterior walls, on the roofs, exposed timber surfaces. We put some Swedish design house furniture in there just to make sure that we actually not pretending to be expensive design company, which it isn't. Yeah, this is affordable housing that we're doing here. And I would want to live there, so it's really nice. It feels really cool. Now you might ask the question, what is this having to do with Ukraine? Which is a fair question, and I'll tell you. Obviously, we are aware of the fact that there has been, due to the war, quite a few buildings, living units, apartments being destroyed, right? Around 150,000 houses and apartment buildings that are not anymore available. And at the same time, there is a very strong internal migration stream. But unless in other places, like Germany or Austria or Switzerland, there isn't really a rental market out there for a number of reasons. At the same time, to reconstruct people who have lost their homes won't be that easily in the position to just buy or build a new one, yeah? Because there is funding lacking. So the question that we asked ourselves, we said, we are a startup. We cannot just go out there and donate because we are obviously dependent also on our investors' resources. But what we can do is we can use our skills, our approach, our knowledge to make a difference. Now, how did that work? So we started in looking around. We looked for best practices. What do other countries, other areas of the world do if they want to provide affordable housing to their people? And there's good models out there. Austria is having what is affordable housing, which is, well, you can argue one of the best in the world, even if not even the best one, but there's also other examples out there. Why I'm saying that Austria might be one of the best ones, or the best ones, if you look at affordable housing cost per capita on population, and you compare Austria to some of the other markets, you will see that it, in fact, is from a cost perspective. Yeah? And we looked at the Austrian model and said, well, what would we need to do to actually get the Austrian model into Ukraine? And how would that work? Yeah? How can we help people in Ukraine benefit from best practices and learnings from other areas of the world? Where municipalities, governmental agencies, funding bodies, but most importantly and centrally, the people who live in those units actually benefit. Yeah, so the idea is, how can you create a setup with only winners? And that is possible, by the way. Yeah? So the world is not a win-lose thing. Yeah? It can be a win-win thing if people work together appropriately. So we said, okay, how would this need to look like? So obviously you need funds, right? There's financing institutions that can play a role. There is EBRD, there's World Bank, there's obviously private investors as well. That fund what is called an affordable housing fund, which is a limited profit investment vehicle. Yeah? That is asset-backed because it's given loans to companies that actually own and operate and rent out assets. And at the same time, it's very, very, very long-term focused. Yeah, so it's not for people who want to get in and get out a few quarters later with a 10x multiple or so. Yeah? That's long-term investments into real estate. Now, those housing funds are the financing bodies that then, again, provide loans to companies that are affordable housing companies. Those are the ones that build, own, and rent out assets. And they, in turn, build those buildings. Yeah? And that is a model which is very similar to some other places in the world, where it works really, really nicely, given that there's good policies in place that make sure that those companies act within a framework that actually motivates and incentivizes them to really create value for the tenants. But the German product didn't work for Ukraine, simply for a cost perspective, right? It's a different cost of construction that we're looking at. So we had to develop a Ukrainian product, which worked nicely and which is now ready to be shipped, which is accessible, which is available for people with special needs, and which at the same time also runs on a digital platform and all those things. Highly sustainable, meeting all EU sustainability criteria, which is really, really important. With a great chance in reconstructing that we don't rebuild the same low-quality stuff, but that we can actually take things to a next level. And that's an opportunity that we really should use. So, same process, yeah? From design to manufacturing and assembly, all done on a Ukrainian product for and in Ukraine, with the majority of value creation locally, because you cannot help an economy by shipping stuff to Ukraine, right? You can do it by transferring knowledge and then actually building up and helping the economy. So what we're currently doing is we're currently working on the pilot, which is a first 30 units project, build up partnerships, build up relationships with people who do own land, who also want to do manufacturing with us in Ukraine to actually scale this business model up. Moving, starting more in the West, but then with the intention to actually expand to all over Ukraine. Yeah, there's really no limit. If you look at how many units, like apartments, Ukraine will need, we're talking about something like 2.5 to 3 million over the next few years. So there's quite some work to be done. And we are very partner-oriented. We are partner-oriented at Groupyus, and we are specifically partner-oriented in this context. This is also why we are partnering with One Ukraine, that Julia will talk about, but where we are also open to partnerships in all aspects and in all components here, whether it's from a manufacturing partnership perspective, construction companies, or whatever. So if somebody is having good ideas, let me know. And that's it. Thank you very much.